Good morning, church. Good morning. What a great day this is. A day full of joy and possibility and opportunity, and we are all here together to enjoy it and to share in it together. Welcome to Cypress Creek Christian Church. We are so happy that you are here with us today. So, it's time. It's time to move around and greet each other in the spirit of Christian love and acceptance. Give a hug, give a high five, a how do you do, whatever it takes.
this Christmas season, often we see a lot of advertisements, a lot of signs that say joy. But yet we find ourselves wondering, where is the joy? And often it's because our aspirations are super big. We're looking for that one wow of joy, and then we're disappointed when we never find it. And embedded in the Christmas message is looking for the little glimpses of joy that are all around us if we chance to look. The look of excitement on a child's face when they see that gift that they hope is under the tree on Christmas. The look of joy when the children come home from school or from that other city in which they live and we celebrate. The look of excitement when people gather together and hear a song that brings back a memory. And so this week I want to encourage you to look for those glimpses of joy, the little things that add up to this overwhelming joy that we celebrate on Christmas morning. This next song is called Joy to the World, Joyful, Joyful. I think you'll recognize it, but it might be just a little more upbeat than you're used to.
of all, just lift up some things happening in the life of our congregation. But if you're a guest, a visitor with us this morning, we want to say welcome. And we pray that your experience in worship allows you to connect with the identity of this congregation, which is to put love first in all things. It is what we strive to do. It is what we gather to learn about each and every week. I want to remind you of the blue cards that you find in each worship guide. Just take a moment to fill those out and let us know how we can pray for you this coming week. There'll be an opportunity to place those in the baskets later in the service, along with any offering you might have. Unless you think about joining, then I would say give it to me or give it to one of our elders at the close of the service. If you can give the gift of blood, I hope you might consider doing so after this service. That's what I plan to do. The bloodmobile is here this morning. Tonight at 6:30 p.m. right here in this space, this group that we just heard is ready to go, and I know there'll be a wonderful night of music and scripture, and I hope you plan to be here. This Thursday, the Gathering Place is a program that we are preparing for, a ministry. This Thursday, we're going to do a practice run in preparation. So for those of you that are planning to participate, we hope you can be there. There will be a lunch. If it's something you're still thinking about helping out with, come and learn a little bit more. And again, that'll be this Thursday at 10 a.m. Christmas Eve services, a little over a week from now. The family service is at 5 o'clock. The traditional candlelight service is at 7:30. I hope you make a Christmas Eve service a central part of those hours in advance of Christmas Day. I think it is always a special and powerful experience. And then finally, the first Sunday of January, Epiphany Sunday, the arrival of the Magi, which includes our camel walk. It's a one-service Sunday, that Sunday, 10:30 in the morning. We start over in Meyer Park with the constables escorting us with the camel and wise folk dressed up, and it's always a wonderful occasion. Afterwards, we're going to have a simple soup luncheon. There are sign-up sheets out here if you are interested in bringing a crock pot of soup, or maybe some bread or crackers, so that we can enjoy some fellowship afterward. Well, today we continue to look at light imagery from the prophet Isaiah, reflecting on our theme, which is this idea, let us walk in the light.
Bruce, it's your conscience. What are you doing there?
That's the question I should be asking you. What are you doing at home? You're supposed to be here with me.
It's Joy Sunday, and there's nothing like sleeping in that brings joy.
You're not encouraging worship.
Down in quite the Scrooge today.
Listen, there's no question that turning off the alarm, sleeping in, can be a joyous experience. This morning I want you to expand your thinking on this idea of joy.
Like having breakfast in bed after sleeping in?
Continue to expand. Continue to look a little deeper than just that. By the way, you're my conscience, and shouldn't you be my guilty conscience?
I'm sorry, are you saying something?
Whatever. Are you going to join us?
Is there joy there?
Yes, I guarantee it.
As good as sleeping in joy?
At least that good, if not better.
Okay. Can you send a number?
You don't need a Uber. You just get here. Sorry about that. That was just embarrassing. Since the proverbial cat is out of the bag, it is Joy Sunday, the third Sunday of Advent, and we are looking at light imagery from the prophet Isaiah. Today we look at chapter 9. I invite you to hear these words. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shined. You have multiplied the nation. You have increased its joy. They rejoice before you as with joy at the harvest, as people who exult when dividing plunder. For the yoke of their burden and the bar across their shoulders and the rod of their oppressor you have broken as on the day of Midian. For all the boots of the trampling warriors and all the garments rolled in blood shall be burned as fuel for the fire. For a child has been born for us, a son given to us. Authority rests upon his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His authority shall grow continually, and there shall be endless peace for the throne of David and his kingdom. He will establish and uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this day onward and forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. May these words resonate with us today. May they shape and form us as people of faith. Will you join me in prayer? O light of light, lead us from the darkness and toward your life-giving brilliance. Let us join the voices of those who centuries ago found reason to rejoice. To rejoice in you, Lord, and to rejoice in your gift of light that was coming into the world. Amen. If you have been watching commercial TV over the last 3 weeks or so, then you might have gained a certain understanding of what joy, what it's all about. If not, let me explain. Did you know that buying matching $65,000 automobiles, one for you and one for your spouse, one for you or one for that significant other, that brings joy? I mean, that's what they said on TV. Did you know that there is nothing that heightens the experience of joy in one's heart than buying a brand new Steinway piano? $150,000, that's it, but that's what they said. Did you know that there is nothing that can stir and awaken joy in one's heart like a diamond necklace and matching earrings? Not the cheap ones, no. No, the really nice. I mean, that's what they said on TV. And if it's on TV, it's got to be true, right? Interesting how certain industries suggest that the amount of joy is proportional to the amount of money one spends. More money, more joy. Why do I feel that might not be entirely true? The prophet Isaiah, in the 9th chapter, is speaking to a people that have been experiencing threats of violence from the north. They're uncomfortable with a potential treaty with those to the south, and there's internal conflict. And the prophet announces to the people, you, Lord, have increased the nation's joy. The people rejoice before you as with joy that is found at the harvest, as those who are enjoying the blessing of a victory, or when the burden one carries or the rod of the oppressor are broken. It's interesting the progression that happens in this passage. The joy of the harvest, the joy of a victory, the joy of true liberation from oppression. The last two, the joy of a victory, the joy of liberation, the prophet Isaiah presents them as if they have happened or are happening, but have they? At least at that time? No, they have not. If anything, Isaiah's audience knows what it feels like to be trampled under the boot of their enemy. They fear hard labor. They are concerned about the rod of a tyrant. And so those words about a victory, those words about being liberated from oppression, they're words of hope that still rest in the future. But connecting with those two ideas is this idea of joy at the harvest. That just doesn't seem to fit. That's something very common. Unless there's a drought, there were multiple crops throughout the year producing the sustenance of life seasonally. Is there really joy at the harvest? Or is it so routine that we do not appreciate it, we do not value such things, we do not enjoy them, we do not recognize them as a source of joy? When you are speaking, as Isaiah was speaking, to people whose future is looking desperate, people who are probably soon going to be walking through their own valley in the shadow of darkness, sure, you can present, as Isaiah does, a vision of light, of a day in the future when there will be no more pain, there will be no repression. You can present that vision, but what do you say to people in the moment? Do you just say, hey, suck it up, deal with it? No, the prophet Isaiah does something else. A few of us from the church about a month ago went and heard the author Rob Bell speak. He was in town on what he called his Introduction to Joy tour. And in that presentation, which was just exceptional, there were a number of things that really resonated with me. But one thing in particular that really struck me was that Rob said we set the bar of joy too high. We need to lower, he said, our expectations. Not lower our expectations of joy's power, but where we might find joy, where we might encounter joy, where it is that we might experience joy. Our friend, Reverend Dr. Terry Ewing, Terry used to come and visit the church twice a year. He was the representative from Bright Divinity School up at TCU. He would come and share worship with us. Well, he is now working for Phillips Graduate Seminary out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We probably won't see him quite as often. But recently, Terry sent out an email that referenced an old Calvin and Hobbes comic strip. In the comic strip, Hobbes, the stuffed tiger, asks little boy Calvin why he is digging a hole in the backyard. Calvin says, "I'm looking for treasure." And then a few moments later, with great excitement, he says, "Look! Dirty rocks, a weird root, and some disgusting grubs. There's treasure everywhere." There's treasure everywhere. There is joy everywhere. And unlike the folks in the TV commercials, the joy that we're talking about doesn't cost a penny. For many, the joy of the harvest was joy that required little to no work, maybe a little tending or caring of the field, but often it was just a harvest that showed up on a tree or in the berries in the forest. They showed up as a gift. It's as if Isaiah, who knew the people would soon be going through a tough time, reminded them not to set the bar too high. There is joy. Joy to sustain our souls, even in the rough times. There is joy to be found all around us, assuming we're willing to look for it. That joy that shows up in the darkness, it doesn't eliminate all of our pain or hurt. It doesn't automatically make everything perfect again, but that joy provides at least some strength for the day. This past Wednesday, I went down to the medical center. One of our church members was having surgery. I got there at 5:15 in the morning, still when it was very dark outside. I went to where the family had told me to meet them. I took the elevator up, stepped off the elevator, and the area was under construction. I kind of looked around and started peering around corners, and nobody. And finally, I walked down a hallway and turned a corner, and there was a guy that looked as if he worked there. And I asked him, I was told to come here, but there's nothing there, just a lot of construction stuff. And he said, follow me. And he took me down this hallway and around a corner, down another corridor, and used his little card to get us into an area that said staff only. And we walked down another hallway and around another corner, and got to a desk and said, I'm pretty sure these people can help you. I looked at his tag, it said Charles on it. I said, your name Charles? He said, yeah, thank you so much. I waited for my turn to step up to the desk. A woman finally called me. I gave the patient's name, and she said, oh, this is a place that they usually come. But because of all the construction, you need to go to. And she began to explain it to me, and I was almost instantly lost as she explained it. For all I know, she told me I had to swim across a river with alligators, and but finally I just started walking in the direction she pointed. I got down a hallway and turned, and there was Charles. And he looks at me and said, I'm guessing that wasn't where you were supposed to be. I said, yeah. I told him where I was told to go. He said, oh, that's on the other side of the hospital. Come and follow me. And he began wandering around and following him. We took an elevator down, and along the way I started asking him questions. Come to find out, he had just come off an all-night shift. He worked for housekeeping there at the hospital, and he was on his way home. I apologize. I felt so bad that I had taken him away from going home and going to bed, but he said, no problem. And he took me all the way to the next desk and waited around to make sure I was in the right place. And this is a strange word, but I'm going to use it. He seemed thrilled to be able to take me on this journey. He was just so full of joy. He's come off an all-night shift. He's got to be exhausted, and yet there was something about him. He wasn't on the clock. He could have made it a very good excuse. I'm exhausted, but he didn't. I don't know if it was because I was prepping for this sermon, but I couldn't take my eyes off the joy in this man. It was a guy who was just showing me from point A to point B. But it sure appeared as if he was rejoicing in every single step he took. At this time of the year, when we're talking about such big things, I'm not talking about expensive stuff. No, I'm talking about God incarnate, born in Bethlehem kind of stuff. I'm so glad that my bar wasn't set so high that I just looked over Charles and missed that wonderful gift that showed up in the darkness of that early morning. Because that encounter put a bounce in my step and a liveliness in my attitude the rest of the day. There is joy in the victory, Isaiah says. There is joy for liberation. That kind of joy is beyond words. But what happens when you're still waiting? When you're still waiting for the victory? What happens when you're still in the shadows? What if you're still waiting for that liberation to show up? I believe that joy makes appearances. Sometimes we've set the bar so high with our expectations, we miss those gifts when they appear. The gift of the harvest. The gift that a kid finds digging a hole in his backyard. The gift of another human being named Charles, who just showed up and was this source of joy that day. be on the lookout. But along with that, recognize that you might be the joy that shows up in somebody else's darkness. I'm not talking about, oh, being a happy person. Sometimes that's just irritating. No, I'm just talking about being that gift of your presence. Being that person who is willing to go beyond what most people would have done. And to do it not with this attitude, but with this joy. A spark, a hint, a glimmer of joy that shows up in the shadows. And that's part of the reason that we light a candle in this Advent season. To remind us that even though we are still walking, moving toward the arrival of the true light, there are these little hints, a little flicker, a single flame. As Lori and April come forward to light the next candle on our Advent wreath, I want to invite you to join your voices as we sing the third verse of the song, One Candle is Lit. We offer these words now in the name of that gift of joy, the Christ child. Amen.
Start to face unexpected.
light. The season of Advent is this journey in the shadows, moving toward the gift of light that is coming into the world. It's interesting, more than 4 centuries ago, it was the practice in many parts of Christianity to fast during the 4 weeks of Advent. And in the northern Scandinavian countries, to fast in that kind of cold was dangerous. And so the practice became on Joy Sunday to break the fast and to have a feast. The reason that we have the pink candle on the 3rd Sunday, it was because the mood was lightened just a little bit before moving back into the 4th and final week. I think it is a reminder of how in the shadows and in the darkness, as we're moving along, how suddenly something simple can show up and remind us of joy. It can be a gift of joy. We do communion every week. It can be routine, just like the harvest. Or we can make ourselves open to the possibility that God may provide us a gift of joy in the meal this morning. Not only for this moment, but maybe to bless you with that joy so that you can be a gift of joy at some point this coming week. Here at Cypress Creek Christian Church, all are welcome to participate in the communion experience. It is an invitation given through Christ Jesus, an invitation in grace and love and mercy. You don't need to be a member of our church or even part of our tradition. In a moment, those seated here in the main section will be invited to come forward and take a piece of bread, dip it in the cup, and partake of the elements. On the back row, the communion elements will be brought to you in their stations up in the balcony. Let us prepare our hearts and minds for this wonderful gift that might just be a source of joy for us today.
is of the table.
Let us eat and drink in remembrance of him.
Let us pray.
Wonderful Counselor, mighty God, eternal Father, Prince of Peace, the great I am. We have so many names to call you that describe the aspects of your character that we need to slip out of the darkness that unexpected circumstances place us in. You also provide us with simple things that we can find in your creation that give us a glimmer of your joy and a glimpse of the light that only you can provide. When we set our expectations low enough, we are surprised to find the joy in the smile of a stranger, the hug of a friend, the kind word of a brother or sister, and an unexpected communication during a time of despair. As we gather at your table to receive this holy meal, please remind us that your joy is found in the simple things of life. Bless us with the affirmation of your unexpected joy and empower us to share it with the world as we leave the table and the sanctuary today. Hear us as we pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
The table is set.
And the God who took on flesh will meet us here.
All are welcome. Come, let us feast.
one of us, and it comes as a gift. But I know many of you are people that make yourselves available to that gift, so that you can be a gift of joy in the life of someone else. For others, if you're a little like me, it takes some work. Maybe you've kind of had a rough week, and because of it, you set the bar a little too high, and maybe missed out. Go ahead and set the bar low. We're not talking about setting the bar low because we don't believe joy has much to it. No, it's because God is always one who surprises us with that gift of joy in some pretty incredible ways. Here at Cypress Creek, as we do every Sunday, we are extending an invitation to come and be a part of this faith community as we continue to explore what it means to put love first in all things. We also believe that that is an invitation to give one's life to the one who first loved us. So if you wish to respond today, you can either come forward as we are singing, or you can meet with one of our elders or pastors immediately after the service. Let us now join our voices in our song of celebration. There's also that photo booth. If you want to get a picture, I'm sure we can help you do that. I've been enjoying the people that have been posting them on Facebook and Instagram and other places. A good way of promoting our church to the community. And then don't forget, tonight, 6:30, right back in here. I invite you to take a hand to somebody close. And let's join together in our closing prayer. Gracious God,